sinners, and saints. Dust off those horns and halos. It's time for Alan After Dark.
Sinners and saints, I have lost my ass. No, I don't mean that it's fallen off or something like that. But when I started my diet under doctor's orders, it's one of those things about men that we don't benefit the right way, in my opinion, from weight loss. We all want the weight to come off of our stomachs, but where does it come off first? Our asses. And thanks to my friends, Robbie, Larry, I know now that my ass is totally gone flat.
What?
No.
Even a spare tire won't help me. Even AAA can't help me. So I've got to go back to the squat thrusts and hopefully build something back there that looks partly like an ass. I can only hope. Jesus. I know that I've talked about it many, many times on the podcast about the things that we hate about ourselves. And unfortunately for me, my ass was always one of my greatest assets, pun intended. But I started thinking about some of the adventures that I've had, well, the experiences I've had that entailed something physically different about a person. So I want to take a bit of a trip back in time to when I had encounters that really threw me for a loop. I still find it fascinating how a memory just comes flooding back to you, something that you didn't think about for years, and suddenly it's like something that happened the day before. But I am so glad that the memory that came back to me was a memory and not something that happened the day before. There was a guy at the club one night, and I'll be honest, he looked like a twink. And in my younger years, I liked all types of guys. If you tickled my fancy, I wanted to tickle yours. He was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy that could dance pretty well. And I was just kind of watching him from afar as he danced. I was not in the mood to dance that night, from what I can remember. Anyway, when he come up off the floor to get a drink, I had no hesitation. I went over, said hello, introduced myself, and we'll call him Jimmy. We seemed to hit it off. I invited him back to my place, and he said yes, and so off we went to get busy. Well, you know the standard routine. We start out, we're in my bedroom, we're making out, we're on the bed, clothes are coming off, the foreplay is getting there, and he's working my pants off, and I'm laid back on the bed, occasionally looking down, but not very much, as he's kissing my stomach and drifting down, kissing and licking along my thighs, getting me really hot and aroused. I'm really into it, and finally he goes down on me, and it's feeling good. He's bobbing up and down on me and really going to town. But then, all of a sudden, the pressure on my dick becomes even stronger. Pressure like biting with lips, squeezing so tight that it was becoming uncomfortable. And I was like, what is going on? How is he doing that? I just had never felt such pressure up and down on my shaft. At that point, in the hue of street light coming through the window, I looked down to my left, not looking at his bobbing head, and I see something that I have to do a double take. I see something that doesn't make sense. I see teeth.
Wait, what?
On the bed.
Oh my God.
False teeth.
Ugh.
Jesus Christ.
In the time that he was kissing and licking my thighs, apparently he was taking out his teeth. And because he had no teeth, the pressure I was feeling was from his gums. Unfortunately for me, My initial reaction at that point was, what the fuck? Ah! Now, I have heard the stories of guys sticking their dicks into vacuums for that suction, but I actually experienced a human vacuum with nipples. My reaction, of course, made him stop and look up at me, and I am looking down at him, and I'm like, is that your teeth on the bed? And he was like, well, yeah, you're acting like this is not feeling good, but I know it feels good. I'm like, how do you know it feels good? Have you ever had somebody gum your dick? It didn't feel good. It was a total distraction from the arousal. Now, maybe if I was into that sort of thing, it might have felt good. Maybe if I wanted to stick my dick in a vise and have it rip the skin off, it might have been great. Maybe I'm into that S&M shit in a different life or a different universe, but at that moment, I wasn't into it. And it was most uncomfortable, most unpleasant. And it turned me into a fucking diva right there on the spot, to where that incident was over. So he sits up, puts his teeth back in his mouth. I'm sure he had cotton thread and stuff on them, so that must have been quite uncomfortable. I mean, I had good sheets, but still, fibers come off of them. And could you imagine that between your gums and your false teeth? Had to be painful, didn't it? Jesus. After he got his teeth put back in, he left. And I know you're all thinking, Jesus Christ, Alan, that was so harsh and judgmental. But was it? I mean, I wasn't criticizing him for not having teeth. I was criticizing him for being too rough on my dick. There is a difference. But you have to be honest with yourself, too, and I have to be honest with myself. I think if you really care for someone, or if they were your friend, you don't give a rat's ass about things like that. But if it's on that superficial level of a one-night stand, then it probably is an issue. Is that fair? No. But isn't a one-night stand one of the most selfish things you can do anyway? I think so. Would something like that prevent you from dating someone? And my honest answer is, it depends. If I truly have feelings for a person, no, that doesn't matter. If they could walk, or if they're blind or deaf, none of that matters to me. And actually, those things don't matter to me if it's even on a one-night stand. If I'm into you, I'm into you. I guess what I'm saying here is that seeing those teeth laying on my bed really made me aware that I really didn't even want a one-night stand with this guy. And so it was an easy way to get out of the situation by complaining about how much that hurt. Call me a bad person, but, you know, that's what it was. Now, you have got to admit that sometime in your life, you've had a drunken night and hooked up with somebody, and you wake up the next morning and they're laying on your arm, and you think, well, do I really need that arm? I could just gnaw it off and get out of here. We've all done it, haven't we? At least once. What was it that Harvey Fierstein says in Torch Song Trilogy? A thing of beauty is a joy until sunrise. And when it comes to one-night stands, that pretty much is true, right? I remember once I really got wasted at the club, and there was this guy who offered to drive me to a hotel, and I was very appreciative. We had friends in common, even though we weren't friends, and I felt relatively safe with him in my blitzed state. So he did take me to a nearby hotel, and I got checked in, even though I was drunk. I got all that taken care of. Went upstairs to the room, and in between throwing up in the bathroom and passing out on the floor, I managed to get back to the bed and fall asleep. It was only the next morning when I realized that he had stayed, even though I made no offer or request for him to stay with me. And he suddenly decided that that made us boyfriends. And I had to nip that in the bud right there and right then. Unfortunately for me, I apparently gave him my phone number. So imagine my surprise 2 weeks later when my phone's ringing and it's this guy. At this time, I tended to answer phone calls, regardless of whether or not I recognized the phone number. And so when I answered it, I realized it was him. I could hear his voice. Then I realized he just butt dialed me. So fortunately for me, I just hung up and fucking blocked that number. Would I have ever done anything with him? No. From the time he was being courteous to take me to the hotel and all that, I viewed him as a friend. And I did thank him the next morning before I sent him packing. And I guess maybe to my own version of insulting someone, I asked him how much I owed him for the drive over to the hotel. And he kind of took that as an insult. But I was trying to make it clear that this was just a friend helping out a friend, not a chance for him to have a quick score. And I did think about it. When I was passed out, did he do something to me? But I'm pretty confident he didn't. Why? My underwear was on, my pants were on, and no, somebody didn't take them off and put them back up on me. He would have had a tough time getting my lard ass back in and out of pants at that point. You know, dead weight is pretty heavy. Seriously, y'all have never carried somebody into their house and put them down on the couch? Jesus Christ, they're heavy. I can hear some of you screaming, well, what was wrong with him? Why were you so quick to reject him? And the answer is, there was nothing wrong with him, really, other than him being a drug addict and an alcoholic. But, you know, there's people that you're attracted to as a potential lover, even a one-night stand. But there's some people that you're not attracted to in that way and look at them more like a friend. But before you jump all over my case, it's not always something about their body that is repulsive. There was a guy, when I was working as a server, the cook that worked the shifts that I did, we had a chemistry and I was attracted to him and he was attracted to me. And he was a pretty damn good cook, by the way. Anyway, after work was over, he asked me to come home with him and I said yes. And I followed him to his apartment and kind of excited. We were going to hook up and it was going to be some fun. No strings attached, just enjoyment. And walk in to see ashtrays on virtually every table overflowing. Ugh. Seeing cigarette burns all over the carpet. Ugh. Seeing animal waste in places. Ugh. It was the most disgusting, dirty place that I had ever seen.
This is great.
And I started thinking, after seeing the apartment, I'm like, oh my God, his place is this dirty. Is he clean when he's cooking for us at the bar? I wanted to vomit right there on the spot, I'm telling you. And I was so disappointed because I was really attracted to him, but that apartment turned me so off that I made an excuse that I wasn't feeling well and I fled home. Now, we stayed friends after that, and he still worked there, and I kept a close eye on him when he was cooking to make sure that he was washing his hands and handling the food properly, because I didn't want any of our customers getting fucking sick. And he was doing it well. It's just that his personal hygiene at his apartment was something to be desired. It was lacking. That's an understatement. Sometimes I would feel good when I rejected certain people. I was always the loser, the ugly one who never did really luck out a lot of times with the hottest guys, even though I have to say that I have hooked up with some of the hottest men in this town because I had the guts to talk to them. But sometimes it feels nice to have the shoe on the other foot, so to speak. Do you remember the show Queer as Folk? If you don't remember it and you've never seen it, please, by all means, find that show and watch it. All the seasons. You will not be disappointed. But there was a character on the show. His name was Ted. And he was like the smart accounting type person. But he was always the ugly duckling, so to speak. He was a bit of a geeky, dorky kind of guy and never really lucked out with the men. And there was that episode I want to say they're at Fire Island, but that may not be accurate. So bear with me. I'm just kind of setting the stage here. They were on vacation, and there was this really hot guy who took a shine to Ted, and he couldn't believe it. Well, they wind up going back to his place and getting crazy, having sex. And the next morning in the afterglow, Ted thinks that there might be something more than just a one night stand. But the guy insults him by saying something like, well, I do this once a year. I take sympathy on someone who's not very attractive and I sleep with them. That's like my good deed for the year. And I just wanted to scream, you motherfucker, eat shit and die. Well, that's the way I felt a lot of times in my life. And so the times that I have, and there's been a couple of really hot guys that they were doing things that I didn't like during the foreplay, and I got up and walked away. And I'm proud of myself for doing that. They didn't think that I had the self-esteem or integrity to not do everything that they wanted to do. Well, I showed them, didn't I? A couple of times. And I believe that that's how I approach relationships now. I look at them as a possibility, but not a guarantee. And I'm fine either way. I know you're all sick of me climbing up on this soapbox about being single, right? And I'll do my best not to drag it out here and make it a long event. This is not some long gospel hour or something, even though I feel like I'm testifying. Hallelujah, praise Jesus. Speaking of the Lord, Jesus Christ, I've lost track of time. I should be getting ready for happy hour. You know, I tried that, a couple of weeks ago, and I tripped on my sock when I was trying to put it on, and that was very embarrassing. But it's kind of funny, so I left it in that episode of the podcast. But this week, since then, I've decided that I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way, talk to you guys, and then get ready. But I am excited, as usual, for happy hour. I'm looking forward to some drinks, some shots, and maybe some dick. Maybe a hot flesh injection. That sounded gross, didn't it? That's one of those straight things, right? That's how they say it when they talk about cream pies. And I am not a member of the cast of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Remember that episode? That cream pie episode? Oh, that was too funny, wasn't it? I should have gotten high for this episode, since it's so off-the-wall crazy, right? But never forget, one-night stands should be on your terms, how you want to do it, with acceptance on both parties or multiple parties, however that flows. But you should never do anything just because somebody says they want to do it. You do it because you want to do it too. And I'll just say this one more time. If it's Henry Cavill in my bed, whatever he wants to do, damn it, I want to do. He can spit on me, pee on me. Well, I was going to say vomit on me, but I'm not going that far. And it would be all right, though. Whatever happens with him is okay. But what I'm really getting at here is that, yes, we may have our hang-ups, especially when it comes to one-night stands, and that's okay. I'm talking about your self-esteem. But I'm also saying that you should not destroy someone else's self-esteem to make you feel better. It's a balancing act. Like I said about my false teeth guy. It wasn't that he had false teeth. It's that he was so aggressive on my dick, I didn't like it. I really hope that makes sense. Because, like I've said before, this is a safe space. Unless you're the orange turd and it's not safe. But all I would do would be boo and point at that asshole. Or something like that. I don't know what I'm saying. But I've always hated that thought that people who try to demean and demoralize other people and insult them, how does that ever make you feel better? I just don't see how it does. So in those instances where something suddenly turns you off, unless they really are being vulgar and disgusting and arrogant with you, then you have every right to be vulgar, disgusting, and arrogant with them. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, a dick for a dick, a smack for a smack. Nothing wrong with standing up for yourself, but nothing right about tearing other people down. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Alan After Dark. Whew, God, it's hot up in here. I hope you've had fun and not too pissed off. Either way, it's been a good time, right? Remember, take life by the balls and be real. We'll see you soon.